Today's movie answers the age-old question, who would win in a fight, Chuck Norris or budget Michael Myers? The answer may surprise you. Welcome to Sick Flicks, where I take a deep dive into the cinematic sewer to help you embrace your inner gore geek. I'm Mike Bracken, aka The Horror Geek, and today we're tackling Michael Miller's hybrid slasher flick, Silent Rage. Released in 1982, Silent Rage was another attempt to cash in on the popularity of slasher movies by grafting the formula onto other genres. In this case, they basically took Michael Myers and squared him off against Chuck Norris. Director Michael Miller insisted that he didn't care for slasher films and that Silent Rage was a Frankenstein homage and not influenced by stalk and kill flicks at all. But I'll let you make your own call on that one. This film certainly has a Frankenstein influence, but Miller's pulling your leg about not being influenced by slashers. But enough about that. Can Chuck Norris karate kick an indestructible killer into a 5 barf bag rating? Let's get to the gore and find out. Oh, and before we get started, today's video is sponsored by patrons Jennifer Ayala, sorry if I butchered that Jennifer, Joey Johnson, and Highwayman. If you'd like to sponsor some videos and free me from the shackles of YouTube's tyranny, you'll find a link to my Patreon in the pinned comment and description below. And now, let's get bloody. We fade in on a stained glass window. I don't know if it's suggestive or just ugly. Bold choice either way. And here's our title card. I don't know, is Silent Rage an oxymoron? I'd like my rage to be more boisterous. Hey, it's Ron Silver. Silver's the only actor who got to carry both Chuck Norris and Jean-Claude Van Damme through a movie. With Stephen Furst. I sure hope he doesn't flounder his way through providing the comic relief here. Man, I hate when people put a bunch of text on their walls. If the next card says live, laugh, love, I'm out. With the credits over, it's time for football practice. Who clearly was having some wet dreams, judging by those flop sweats. Well, guess I better get up and start murdering people. I mean, this movie isn't gonna make itself. Finally downstairs, our Silent Rager is already regretting his staycation. Turns out his call is from director Michael Miller. Hey man, can you speed this scene up? Norris hasn't even been on screen yet and he's over here karate chopping the craft services table. Actually, this is his psychiatrist.
Doc, I don't feel so good.
Fortunately, his insurance only covers 30-second telemedicine calls, so he hangs up. And immediately returns to his free nagging appointment.
Those kids can drive you nuts, don't they? Don't they?
He heads outside to calm down like Vic in Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. I'm sure this is going to end well. I'm pretty sure any homicide he commits is justified at this point.
What are you kids doing out there? You trying to kill each other?
And look out. I think we just got some foreshadowing.
Just stop it. Now I've got a splitting headache and you're not helping it one little bit.
The interesting thing here is he's stalking all these people in a crowded house in broad daylight. That's a break from slasher film tradition. Despite Halloween's obvious influence on Silent Rage's story, director Michael Miller insisted that he didn't like slasher movies and considered this more of a riff on Frankenstein, wherein Chuck Norris would have to apprehend the mad scientist who made the film's monster. Relax, he just wants to take a little off the top. Or maybe he was looking to make the upstairs an open concept living space. The boarder down the hall looks to help, but Steve Meyer here tells him to split. With the renovations going great, Mom tries to escape. That dude is really going postal. Here's Johnny. You could say he's having a real breakthrough here, and he's gonna fix that splitting headache once and for all. At least that was more convincing than the last axe kill. With Mom a distant memory, his next goal is to beat the final boss, Chuck Norris. Chuck heads inside to give the place a once-over. R. Kelly, are you in there? Not gonna lie, I paid good money to watch Chuck kick the shit out of R. Kelly. Things are getting real tense in here as the camera crew tries to remember where Chuck's going. Oh, there he is. And now we just kind of hang out with Chuck as he looks around the house. I wonder if he'll put in an offer before Zillow buys up the whole block. He is pretty brave because this jump scare doesn't even make him flinch. I mean, his pants are barely wet. Turns out the party is pretty dead upstairs, but there's still a live one waiting for him. Man, this game of hide and seek just got serious. And just as Chuck forgets what the hell he came into the room for, Silent Rage attacks. He's really got an axe to grind with the local sheriff. Chuck's not having it though and gives him a taste of his pimp fist. Nicholas Rage here doesn't want any more of that, so he makes a run for it. Will Flounder stop him? Now we see why Chuck never requests backup. Man, that was close. After his near-death experience, Chuck decides to graze. Man, I could grow a sweet denim crop back here. With nowhere to run, Johnny Rage pounds Chuck with his wood.
Hell yeah.
No, not like that, you pervs. I mean, he's bashing him with a 2x4. Man, his silent rage is pretty loud, but he's no match for the Chuck grapple. Ground and pound. After holding still so that Chuck could get the cuffs on, they head to the after party. What a sausage fest. Turns out the shrink Mr. Rage was talking to on the phone was Ron Silver.
My name is Dr. Tom Holman. I'm from the Institute. John Kirby is my patient.
And he's from the Institute. The Institute of Mad Science, probably. In the back of the patrol car, Luke Rage is using the last of his freak-out energy on busting those cuffs. Putting him in the balsa wood patrol car was probably a bad idea. Rather than cuff him again, the deputies wing him a few times to remind him he's in Texas. Later that day, Rage Stallone finds himself under the care of Dr. Feelgood. And he's gonna pump him full of some primo mad science anger to keep the movie going. So wait, Ron Silver is a psychiatrist and a surgeon? I don't even know what his student loan payment is. While they're trying to save lesser-known slasher icon Jeff Myers' life, we get a little something for the ladies. They haven't made a shirt that can contain Chuck Norris. Also, what is going on in this room? We've got recliners, desks on wheels, and what appear to be brake rotors on the back shelf. Back in the OR, the surgeons kick the ladies out of the room so that they can get extra mad scientist. Maybe they'll install some gun turrets on him. Dr. Gomez-Adams decides it's time to bring his Frankenstein serum into the mix.
Let's accelerate it.
This will either make their dead patient more dead, or it will turn him into an immortal slasher killer. That's a win-win for Sick Flicks either way, injecting 20 cc's of Smucker's raspberry preserves into the patient. And back in the Chuck movie, he receives a message from his ex, in the form of a pimp hand. I can't believe he didn't block that. I thought the dude had a black belt. Meanwhile, Ron Silver and his mad lads continue pumping colorful fluids into their favorite axe murderer. You'd think with 3 doctorates, one of them would figure out this was a bad idea. Ron wants to let our killer die, but this guy's gonna silent rage against the machine. Then Dr. Ron informs Chuck that the suspect is quite dead.
He's dead. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the movie, I guess. Let's go to the gore. What's that? There's a lot more movie left. Damn it. The first thing we learn is that Ron Silver and Chuck's ex are brother and sister. Will that come into play later? I doubt it. With all that plot out of the way, Chuck can get back to doing what he does best, creeping on his ex-girlfriend until she gives in. Bad touch, Chuck.
So don't even try talking me into going to bed with you again for old time's sake, because you don't have a snowball's chance in hell.
But she does give in seconds later. Oh yeah, Chuck still got it. That let me show you my nunchuck line works every time. According to Miller, Chuck had a hard time with the sex scene.
Hell yeah.
No, I mean he was a little stiff.
Hell yeah.
The performance was wooden.
Hell yeah.
Fuck it, I give up.
Did I hurt you?
Yeah. You hurt my feelings.
Chuck's not the only one hooking up. Looks like Flounder's about to get some action too. But then Chuck shows up. He may not be able to deflect a slap from his girlfriend, but he's got a black belt in C-block foo.
How come these little towns hire such candy asses for cops?
I smell a fight scene coming, but it's a fake out. Come on, movie. And awkward stance, because why not? That Chuck, always stretching in case he has to roundhouse kick someone in the face. Back at the hospital, Dr. Silver is about to learn what happened to patient Rage. He's feeling pretty great. He'll be axe murdering in no time. Turns out that their patient is healing almost instantly. Kinda like Wolverine. I couldn't imagine a better subject to give these powers to. Now that he's healed, it's time to get him tan and ready for the beach. They've got the CAT scan set on broil. In case you forgot, we have a romance subplot still going. Chuck stops in to violate his main squeeze's personal space. Ah yeah, I've seen this before. Their graphics card is dying. Good luck getting a new one in this market. While they're freaking out about GPU prices, Chuck's getting shut down.
It's no use, Dan. I just can't start seeing you again.
Meanwhile, silent rage becomes awake rage. Football practice. If you're like, man, there's a real lack of ass kicking for a Chuck Norris movie, don't fret. Business is about to pick up here. Flounder, unfortunately, is more a lover than a fighter, so I think Chuck's gonna have to fight this whole gang on his own. He starts with the leader. By God, he's got him in the sleeper hold. After getting hit with a foreign object, we learn that this is a handicap match. George the Animal Steel tags in. Then the ass-kicking commences. It's sad what happened to those bikers from the Pee-wee movie. They seemed cool. The head biker is so scared of Chuck that he's trying to jump out the window. But he didn't realize this wasn't his cue to escape. Chuck really is the best sheriff Sick Flicks has ever seen. Imagine Edge of the Axes or Offering sheriffs even considering this. Back in the lab, Dr. Forrester decides that talking to his experiment might help it grow even angrier. Weirdest talk therapy ever. Meanwhile, back at Chuck's place, he's playing some mood music. What the hell is this? It's like the intro theme to some public access talk show. This shit makes elevator music sound like Slayer.
Can I turn that off?
For the love of God, yes.
The mood is just right for what we've both been thinking of.
Holy shit, it's even worse with lyrics. Let's ask Ian Sarah what he thinks of this track.
It stinks.
Fun fact, that's Katie Seagal singing. That's right, Pig Bundy sang the love theme to Silent Rage. If you're keeping score at home, we've somehow managed to have as many sex scenes as fight scenes in this Chuck Norris movie. I don't think that's playing to his strengths as a thespian. I mean, it's amazing that he didn't get more romantic leading roles after this. And I guess the time for love is over, because back in the horror movie, Ron Silver comes home to find his wife painting yet another giant boob on the wall. Let's hope he's a Freudian shrink. After a whole lot of pointless jibber-jabber, Ron's former patient drops by. I don't think that these are his normal business hours. And we might as well go all in on ripping off Halloween here. I'll allow it. Oh yeah, right down to the POV shot. But really, tell me again how you didn't like slasher movies and this wasn't inspired by them, Michael Miller. You dirty liar, you. Silent Raj heads downstairs for his appointment, which might be a surprise to old Doc. Ron's able to run upstairs, but Dave Myers is hot on the trail. And he can run. Man, it's dark in here. You'd think a doctor could afford a few hallway lights. Ron sneaks around the corner and finds trouble. He plugs him with a couple of rounds like this is blue steel, but that's just gonna tickle Wolverine here. And he's up to give Ron some feedback on his rates. Ron shoots him again, but Leo Myers clearly used the Konami code and has like infinite lives. With Dr. Silver down for the count, it's time for Silent Rage to focus on the lady, who's a great host because she's come back with some pizza. She finds Ron on the floor. Dude must have starved to death waiting for the pizza. After encountering Jeff Myers, she flees to the attic like she's in a V.C. Andrews novel. You kids even remember V.C. Andrews novels? Christ, I'm old. Even though she's found a good hiding spot, she goes back down to investigate, where he's been waiting. Damn, he even sped up the film. This is an acceptable response for ordering mushrooms on that pizza. And now Chuck's girlfriend is in the murder house. At least I think it's the murder house. It's so dark, I have no idea. Her prepping has awoken the rage, and it's barely even silent at this point. Looks like he left a present on her bedspread. And under it. And he hung her Serpico poster. What a guy. Chuck shows up just before Brad Myers can get to her, and even Brad knows better than to pick a fight when Chuck's with his chick. Later, Chuck has to help his main squeeze process the trauma of sharing the screen with Flounder from Animal House. Meanwhile, back at the lab, Don Myers has returned for some healing. Let's hope it's not the sexual variety. And Flounder brought the girl to the lab too. In a not obvious Gothic reference, they're here to see Dr. Stein.
Let's see, Dr. Stein's in. He's on the 3rd floor.
Very subtle movie. Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank discuss what to do with their test subject now that he's brutally murdered 2 people. Frank wants it dead, Dr. F wants to launch it into space to watch bad movies.
I'm gonna go down to the electron microscope room.
He must mean he's gotta go pee. TV's Frank heads over to inject the patient with Plot Stopper, and that's it for today's movie. Let's remember him as he lived, full of silent rage. But as Frank heads towards the credits, his monster wakes up yet again. Then they dance. Whatever the case, Bill Myers here is all about making his point. Back in the lab, Dr. F continues to work on his water to J&B experiment. Looks like Ted Myers wants to help. Or not. And now, Silent Rage gets around to its finale as the killer heads upstairs to do some more strangling. I sure hope this movie doesn't choke in the last act. Luckily for this doctor, Flounder swims upstream to save the day. But his die instantly strategy is far too effective. At least he gets hugged to death. There are worse ways to go. And now he's chasing Chuck's girl. Fortunately, he's already wearing his shiny tracksuit. Did the cinematographer leave the camera on as he was hunting for the restroom? Maybe this guy can help him find it. Chuck returns to the hospital to find the front desk guard is taking a forever nap. Upstairs, Allison searches for the Laurie Strode wing. Chuck shows up just in time to see Flounder die. Godspeed, little guy. May heaven be filled with double cheeseburgers. And Chuck has reached the Popeye point. He's had all he can stands, and he can't stands no more. Ass-kicking is about to commence. After more cat and mouse, we wander right into a jump scare. Dan Myers is not only a slasher killer, he's also the Texas Staring Contest champion 5 years running. Don't even try to beat him. Hey, that's no way to win the staring contest. Instant DQ. Chuck blows him out the window, and remember, Silent Rage was not inspired by Halloween according to director Michael Miller. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit, I said. Chuck heads downstairs to check for a pulse, but we know he's still ticking. They hightail it out of there, but they forgot Aunt Edna's dog is tied to the bumper. Tough little mutt. The good guys jump ship right before the truck hits a ramp. Yeah, just beat for beat, the same as the Mary Shelley novel. Then the truck blows up like it's a Ford Pinto. Bob Myers is still alive and doing his best Michael Jackson Pepsi commercial cosplay. With nowhere to run, Chuck decides it's time for the long-awaited face-off. Norris versus Bill Myers. This is going to be way better than that Busta Rhymes scene. Norris is tossing out pimp hands and roundhouses like it's the first of the month, but Silent Rage just keeps happening. Luckily for Chuck, they're fighting right by the body well from offerings. Just toss him in there. You'll be safe for at least 10 years. Chuck's valet risks the DQ for outside interference when she rushes in, which allows Chuck to get him into the fireman's carry and power slam him right into the drink. You could say this isn't going to end well for him. This would be a good time for the Haddonfield deputies to stop by and drop a few grenades down there. Just saying. Chuck assures his lady that the movie is over, but if you've ever seen a slasher movie, you know we have one more jump scare. What have we learned from watching Silent Rage? That even a badass like Chuck Norris can only fight a budget Michael Myers to a draw. Honestly, this was the scariest thing in the world to 10-year-old me. If Chuck couldn't win, we were all doomed. I'm also bummed we never got a sequel. For a slasher action hybrid, this one is really pretty good. Sure, it could use more fights and kills, but it's better than Seagal fighting vampires and Against the Dark. So there's that. But enough about that. Did Chuck Norris dole out enough roundhouses to the face to earn a coveted 5 barf bag rating? Let's go to the gore card. In terms of gross anatomy, Silent Rage is pretty light. We get some axe wounds, some syringe splatter, and plenty of blood, but like many slasher hybrids, the gore is downplayed in favor of suspense. Because of that, Silent Rage only gets a 2 barf bag rating. This isn't a sick flick, but who cares? It's got Chuck Norris fighting budget Michael Myers. That's a win. Looking for a slasher movie with a bigger body count? Then be sure to check out my review of Edge of the Axe. You'll find a link here on the screen. I'll meet you over there. Until next time, I'm Mike Bracken, aka The Horror Geek, bringing you all the splatter that matters.